throughout the start of my writing career, if I would call it that, I began to believe, thank God I don't believe this anymore, I used to believe that my writing was not good. When I first began, I used to think I was shit. And it only took about 5 years for me to realize, hey asshole, you need practice. So when I first started off, I praised myself for coming up with these amazing concepts. And then I'd write it down. I'd be like, you know what? Maybe I'm just a conceptualist. I would just write, paragraphs explaining cool shit, and then I would be able to get paid for my ideas. Lo and behold, that did not happen, and I found that out through years and years of that going nowhere. So, after I finally ended up becoming better at writing, for the most part, what am I talking about? I'm fantastic. No, but as time went on, I started to go back to all my old ideas, and I started, bringing them back, making them better, rewriting whole stories. Sorry, there's this insane itch on my foot. And I started going back and just completely rewriting whole stories, to just making them sound better, fixing old stupid writing mistakes that I used to make. And one of these series was of the Terror Museum. Now, this is a completely original concept I made in high school, sometime after high school. And the Terror Museum was I guess you could say a short story. It was a novel that I wanted to do, but I only got 2 chapters in and then got totally bored with the idea and stopped. And it's just sitting somewhere on my computer. It's probably on a file somewhere online. But basically what the Terror Museum was is about this museum that was supposed to be a literal gateway to hell. And the whole point of the museum was that it was owned by this guy named Balthazar Roret. Roret, terror spelled backwards. I'm so smart. I'm so clever. And Roret was supposed to be this guy who made a deal with a demon a hell of a long time ago to make him immortal. And the demon said, okay, on one condition. You have to run this, I see you're running a little antique shop. Run a museum. I'm going to give you the museum. Only thing is, you have to collect X amount of souls every single year. And with that, Roret ended up becoming a warlock demon. I don't really go into detail about what he is. Basically, he serves the 7 lords of... 7 princes of hell. And his job every year is to collect a certain amount of souls, yada yada. His place, the location of the museum is always changing. And I describe it as being in one time it was in Italy for a century, another century it was in, wherever else. And in the newest century, in the 21st century, it is located in, I forget if I made it in New York. I'm pretty 9% sure I made it in New York. And what happens in the story is it's a third person perspective describing the hotel, the museum, the people in charge of it. Basically, apart from Roret, who is almost never seen in the story whatsoever. He's always his assistants and his employees always say he's up in his office somewhere, wherever the hell that is. But the whole concept of the museum is that it's removed from reality. It is on, basically, you could walk down any alleyway in New York and you'll come across this little flight of stairs, and there'll be 2 big black doors. And there's a golden plaque on one of the pillars outside. And it says, this is the Balthazar Roret Museum of Horrific Antiquities, I believe is what I called it. That is something long, something fanciful. And the whole point of the story is that the time of, the 50th anniversary or whatever of the museum's reopening has happened. And the whole point of the museum is for the 7 princes of hell who are contained inside the museum that's run by Roret. Each of the halls are named after each of the 7 princes of hell, or the 6, I forget if it's 7 or 6 princes of hell. And basically what their whole point is, they're trying to kill the 7 saints or the 7 apostles reincarnations. So like St. Peter or whatever gets reincarnated as a banker in New York named like Peter, I don't know, Simmons or something. And what I did was the first 2 chapters are basically in their reincarnated states, the saints are now like regular people. They can be corrupted, and the whole point is that through some way or another they stumble upon the museum that's run by Roret, and Roret's purpose, along with his minions, their purpose is to corrupt and or kill the people, the reincarnations of the saints, who are all living in New York. And I'm not going to tell you the ending in case I ever decide to actually finish it, but the main characters aren't even the reincarnations of the saints or the apostles. The main characters are always the people who run the establishment, who run the museum, the otherworldly museum. And I had some really cool concepts for it, only a few of which I actually wrote down. The rest I completely forgot. But the people who run the museum there's Madame Para, and Madame Para is kind of like the head person. She's kind of in charge of like scheduling and who gets to talk to Roret and where all the employees are supposed to be, all that. And she's basically, porcelain doll type, gothic stereotype, and she's in charge of, she's sitting at the front desk, customer service when you first come into the museum. Next we have the triplets, who are all like little men hunched over with parted hair and green skin. They all wear glasses. They're triplets. They're called, what did I call them? They're Spavo, Spetro, and Spatavio or something like that. They all have like very similar names. And the whole point of that was that in Italian, all their names mean like scared, frightened, and afraid, or something to that effect. And then lastly, the only other employee for the place that I came up with was a character just called the Horseman, who rides a horse-drawn carriage throughout the extremely large halls and corridors of the museum, and he gives rides to the visitors. But the whole point is that he rides recklessly through the halls to the point where he's almost running over like the other employees. And he's supposed to be like comic relief, like, yeah, you're in hell, but it's not that bad. So he's supposed to be, Meanwhile, Manapora's like, I literally work for, like, a demon. And I must serve him. And then the 3 triplets, who are the janitors and who work on the exhibits, don't really have a personality. They're all kind of very zombie-like. So the counterbalance to Miss Pora and the triplets is the Horseman, who's just... he's in hell, but he's trying to make the best of it, and he's just a goofy, hooded, top hat wearing weirdo who he's a reckless driver, and he'll run you down if you're in the way, and then laugh about it. But yeah, this was a story I wrote, I don't know how long ago, and I plan to finish it at some point, but this was back when I started coming up with like these ideas, because I'll get like these ideas for things, and then I'll only be able to write down or translate so much into written word, which is a real pain in the ass. But hey, if anyone likes this concept, wants to make a comic off of it, Hollywood, looking at you, sound like a good idea? Maybe a miniseries, maybe an anime, I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, and the series would just mainly follow the book would mainly just follow the employees, the Horseman, Miss Para, the triplets, and Roret in their attempts to kill or contain or corrupt the incarnations, the apostles, and feed their souls to the 7 or 6 princes of hell. And one of the... Oops. Screen went dark. One of the big thingamajigs that I was going for in it was I didn't go into much detail about each of the halls. Like, each of them have exhibits that are obviously, different in some way. I wanted it to be kind of like a carnival-esque thing of an amusement, of a, type of museum. Whereas it exists on an alternate plane all its own. And it is a literal, entrance to hell. But I was bumping around concepts like maybe if you die in the museum, you're forced to become an employee of it, or something like that. And the relationships between the characters was the triplets hate the horsemen, the triplets love Miss Para. Para looks at the triplets as good help. She doesn't like the horsemen, and the triplets are afraid of Rorette. Miss Para respects Rorette, but is like, shouldn't have made that deal for immortality, man, because now we're all fucked. And then the horseman's just kind of like, screw all yous, and just kind of does his own thing. And they're like, you're going to get reprimanded, and he's like, And Rorette just really doesn't care about the horsemen at all. So they, basically like a weird family aesthetic between them all. And their, rare chance encounters with one another throughout the terror museum. But other than that, the only other idea I had for the Hall of Mammon, which was one of the names of the Princes of Hell, I had an idea for, it was called it's in the first or second chapter. They use it to corrupt somebody, one of the saints. It's called the Hall of Alternative Histories, and it's basically a glass pane, or basically like a sheet of glass, and it shows alternate worlds at different periods. And there's a world where everyone got infected with a clown virus, so everyone's a clown. There's a universe where aliens took over, and what it is you're watching it and the people think, oh, this is a cool moving exhibit, that's cute, it's supposed to be scary, until people start to realize, uh-oh, that's an actual portal to another dimension. And if you stare too long into it, it says before you enter the hall, like, don't stare at anything too long, don't touch the glass, because, start to go through and you could get trapped in one of those alternate histories, which is known to have happened on multiple occasions, leading to that hall being shut down twice. Just little pieces of lore I like to throw in there. So yeah, this is the Terror Museum by me. And I don't know, we'll see if we'll finish it. If anyone likes this idea, wants to turn it into anything, please approach me. I like to believe I'm very approachable. But will I ever finish the book? We will see. If anything, I might turn it into a series of short stories from the perspectives of, the people and whatnot. But this video is going on 13 minutes, so I think that's going to do it. So yeah, that's my Terror Museum story. Bye.